The Boston Celtics are about to face the Lakers, coming in on the second night of a back-to-back following a tough win over the LA Clippers in overtime. Obviously, to talk about it, I'm joined by Trevor Lane from Lakers Nation and the Front Office Show right here, right now on the Celtics Chronicle. Trevor, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited for the big matchup. The big rivalry continues. I love it. I can't wait.
It's one of those games, and I wrote about this earlier today, where you can take your record and throw it out the window. It doesn't matter who's playing well, who's playing bad, how many games you've won, how many games you've lost. When it's a rivalry like this, anything can happen at any point, right? And it's just one of those games where everybody shows up, and you're going to get the best version of LeBron, hopefully, if he plays. He's probable right now. Mm-hmm. Best version of AD, best version of Tatum, all the way through. I'm really keen. I don't get to watch much Lakers generally, so I'm really keen to see the difference with Redick in charge. I know he's kind of implemented this offensive system. How do you feel coming into a game just with the Lakers at the moment? I know they're playing better defense, but worst offense over the last week or two.
Yeah, and that was for a little bit, and then we've seen some regression there. It's gone back the other way again. I mean, honestly, I think in general, Lakers fans don't feel great at all about where they're at on the season or where there's teams at. I think there's, zero confidence that they're going to show up for this game tonight right now, because we've seen them no-show so many times over the last couple of months, particularly in big games. In big games, they've really just kind of fallen flat. Where we've seen just guys, the Lakers played the Clippers, in fact, just about a week ago, and kind of no-showed for that one. Anthony Davis especially was really MIA. Austin Reaves wasn't able to get anything going really. So I know there's not a lot of confidence among Lakers fans right now that the team is going to perform well in this one. But as you said, anything can happen in any given NBA game. As we saw last season, the Lakers without LeBron and Anthony Davis were like 16-point underdogs or something, and got a win in Boston. You just never know what's going to happen in an NBA game. But right now, I think morale is pretty low among Lakers fans, and expectations are not high for what they're going to do in tonight's game.
And that's the hard part, right? Because you guys are coming in on this bit of a downswing season. The Celtics are coming in and they've looked vulnerable at times through this year. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the Celtics are in a slump. You can't call it a slump when they've been inconsistent for more than 50% of the season at this point, or around about 50%. This is kind of who they are. So when you're looking at a team that's really struggling for an identity in terms of the Lakers, where there's a bit of a mismatched roster build, similar to what the Warriors are going through. You guys have these old elder statesmen in LeBron and AD, and then you're trying to build a younger core around them, and it's really hard to get all those pieces to fit together right. And you're coming up against the Celtics team that have just cracked off 2 wins against Western Conference foes on the road. They're playing better on the road than at home at the moment, but they've also shown they're struggling to contain dribble drive penetration. They're struggling on the boards where you guys could thrive with AD. There's areas where the Lakers could kind of pick up some slack here and cause some problems. Maybe if it's a win, if it's not a win, at least come away feeling like there's some progress being made. How do you it's really hard to look at a big picture coming into a game like this, and it's really hard to narrow into a game like this when you're trying to look big picture at the same time. But there are some battles here, like the KP-AD battle. I actually think AD is going to be in a good position there just because he's more physical. KP generally struggles there. You guys do have some tools that will be able to make life difficult against the C's.
Yeah, they've got some advantages on the matchup. The Lakers on the season have been a horrific rebounding team. I think they're ranked 28th in the NBA in rebounding. So that's certainly a concern for LA. But as they hopefully are focused more on their rebound, and particularly attacking the offensive glass a bit, that's something they're going to have to do in order to generate extra scoring opportunities. The Celtics just shoot so many threes. The only way you're going to keep pace is if you're able to really get extra opportunities by attacking the offensive glass and forcing some turnovers, things of that nature. Both things which have not been things the Lakers have done well over the course of the season. They don't force very many turnovers. And they don't grab very many rebounds, but they still can be dangerous on any given night. LeBron, Anthony Davis certainly can do their damage. Anthony Davis, essentially one of the things we've seen for the Lakers over the course of the season and really over the last few years, Anthony Davis has to be better than the other team's big. He has to. For the Lakers to have a shot, he has to be better than his counterpart across the court. That was not the case against the Clippers recently, was not the case when they played the Denver Nuggets, was not the case in a number of matchups over the course of the season. And whenever that happens, it usually leads to a Lakers loss. So Anthony Davis, that is perhaps one of the biggest keys. He has to show up. He's got to have a big performance. He has to be decisively better than Porziņģis. If it's close, if it's even, that's probably game over right there, unless LeBron has some, incredible game or something like that. But the big key, it's Anthony Davis. He has to be a beast on the boards. The Lakers don't have enough other guys who do work on the glass right now. And so you need Anthony Davis to have a massive performance. And that would go a long way towards making this, I think, more of an interesting game throughout the entirety of it.
And there's no argument for me that AD can do that. That's the worst thing about it, right? It's just he's been an inconsistent version of himself since that 2020 bubble championship. And part of this leads me into, and I don't want to go too deep into any trade talk because that's just not what I'm about. But part of me feels like he's consistently sent out messaging that he prefers to play alongside another big.
Yeah.
Lakers have consistently been linked with a string of bigs this season. It's Valanciunas, it's Vucevic, it's name veteran big man that might be available. He's been linked with the Lakers. Do you feel like that's at least part of why Davis sometimes takes nights off or just is inconsistent in his production, because he needs that bruising big next to him to take away some of the physicality and allow him to be more, for lack of a better word, lean into his technicality skills more?
Yeah, I do think that's been a bit of an issue. He struggles when he's going up against the true behemoths, the guys that, AD is 6'11", 250, 255. When he's going up against these 270, 280 pounders, these guys like Jokic and stuff, look, Jokic is gonna kill everybody. But when he's going up against those guys that have a true physical advantage over him, it can be an issue. That said, he can also have games where he looks great against like a Rudy Gobert or someone like that. So it's just kind of the ups and downs that you see with AD. It certainly would help if they could take a little bit of that pressure off of him just by having the option, because he's still, this version of Anthony Davis is probably, even if there's another big on the roster, he's probably going to play center the vast majority of his minutes. But just having the option out there to take some of that burden off of him, I think, would be an important factor for this one. But in general, yeah, you could probably get more consistency out of AD if he did have another player to help him out there. You'd probably get a more defensively aggressive Anthony Davis, as we saw years ago when he had Dwight Howard, when he had JaVale McGee out there. He'd be more aggressive on the perimeter, knowing there was another shot blocker behind him. But he hasn't been able to do that for a while. And I know that's something he's been frustrated with, that the team is not, for years now, not giving him the other big that he's been looking for.
The Celtics run a very similar system. You'll probably see it this evening if both the guys are available. If Porziņģis is matching up against a physically dominant big or somebody that's just more physical than he is, which AD clearly will be, they'll run a double big and they'll keep Horford out there with him or Luke Cornett, and they'll scram switch KP out of there just to try and take away some of that contact, keep him more fresh, so then he can work on the weak side and rotate over to protect the rim that way. Or he can, he'll maybe, as you said, AD will go up on the perimeter. KP will probably be in like a high drop with a low drop behind him. So there is logic to what he's trying to do. And the reason I asked about this was because it leads us on to a trade that the Lakers did make that I think could be quite impactful in this game, which was Dorian Finney-Smith. And just having that wing defender coming up against obviously two of the better wings in the NBA in Jayson and Jaylen, having somebody that can at least pick one of those guys up consistently or switch on to whoever's operating as the ball handler at that time, how much of a difference has he made just in terms of wing defense and switchability within the rotation?
He makes a big difference defensively. You can see it out there on the floor, especially because the other option right now with Jared Vanderbilt now on track to return on Saturday, but won't be available for this game. But the other option being Rui Hachimura, it's extremely noticeable what Dorian Finney-Smith does off ball, what he can do defensively, because that's a weakness for Rui. Rui, the much better offensive player than Finney-Smith, no question. He's got more of a diverse offensive game than Finney-Smith does, but defensively, you do notice a big difference there. Now, Finney-Smith is still dealing with an ankle injury from his time with the Nets, so he'll be on a minutes restriction, but just figure that's just recently gotten bumped up, so he can play 22 to 24 minutes, something like that. And I think it's going to be really important that they do have him out there, because Rui does mentally switch off a lot when he's off ball. And the Celtics, I think, are a team that can really take advantage of that. There's some teams where it doesn't hurt the Lakers too much when Rui he just kind of floats away defensively. But I think the Celtics are a team that can take advantage of that. So it'll be important for the Lakers to run those Dorian Finney-Smith minutes as much as possible so that they can do the best that they can in terms of contesting the insane volume of threes that the Celtics are going to take, in addition to be able to contain the dribble drive. And those are areas that Rui can struggle. So Finney-Smith has been a really nice addition in that regard. And this will be, I think, one of the first big tests for him against two high-level scorers in Jalen and Jayson.
Yeah, and clearly, obviously, defense is a team stat. It's a team. Yeah. It's the only part side of the floor where really the team cohesion is important. But having somebody like that can pick up minutes against Tatum or against Brown, and you've seen this before, teams will try and hone in on one of Tatum or Brown, usually Tatum, to put the ball in Brown's hands, just because he's took jumps as a playmaker, no doubt. Like, I think he's at 1.7 assist to turnover ratio this season, which is his career high. Still far too low for me, in my perspective, to have him operating as a primary creator for you for the C's. But there's been leaps. But if Finney-Smith can deny Tatum on ball reps and make him be more of an off-ball guy, and you force the Celtics to play through Brown, you guys have an opportunity then to kind of blitz early, force some additional turnovers, get that numbers up for you, maybe play a little bit outside of the way you guys usually play. And multiple teams have tried this year, and they've found success, higher pickup points, early blitzes, force the ball into Brown's hands, and live with the results. I do find that you've referenced the 3-point shots a couple of times here, and the math game is going to be important, and it always is when you're facing the Celtics, the Warriors, any high-volume 3-point team. So I've pulled up Cleaning the Glass, and in terms of frequency this season, you guys are 26 in frequency for 3-point rate, 27th from the corner. So the majority of the limited amount of threes you guys do take come above the break or in the slot wing area. And when I switch this over to accuracy, just so I can get a good representation here, you're 18th in 3-point accuracy. So you're actually more successful in the corners, but you're just not taking as many shots there. How are you concerned there? Because 3 is greater than 2, and the C's are going to put up between 40 and 50 from that area of the floor. And if they have a good shooting night, it's going to be really tough to live with them if you're scoring in 2s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, if you're trading 3 for 2 all night long, you're going to lose. You're going to lose by 30, right? I mean, that's the math, right? So for the Lakers to keep up with them, number one, they've got to. Some of it is defense. Some of it is you have to hope for a poor shooting night. You have to hope there's some heavy legs on the second night of a back-to-back. Now, unfortunately, the Celtics did not play Jrue Holiday, did not play Kristaps Porziņģis, did not play a number of guys against the Clippers, which was smart by them. And I know if they rested them against the Lakers, the NBA would have lost their minds. So they could not do that, but they rested guys against the Clippers. So they should have some fairly fresh legs despite going into OT. So you've got to hope for an off shooting night, number one, from the Celtics. But you also have to do your best to try to force an off shooting night, and that means your perimeter defense has got to be on point. Yeah. I would imagine the Celtics are going to do everything they can to pull Anthony Davis out of the paint. So when the Lakers are contesting on the 3, the opportunity to drive and kick is there and bring a credible threat to the rim without Anthony Davis standing there trying to, block the shot or change the shot or anything of that nature. So that's going to be a big key point to this game. But then the flip side is, can the Lakers get to the free throw line? And they have not been as good at it this year as they've been in years past. I believe they rank like 7th or 8th in the NBA right now in free throw attempts per game. I haven't looked at it in about a week or so. But they're not getting to the line the way that they have in seasons past. But that can be an equalizer in general. A shot right at the rim can be just as valuable as a 3-point shot, if not more so, based on just your percentages, your frequency with which you're going to make that shot. Mid-range shots obviously are not. So for the Lakers, it's going to be about, you're not going to get the volume up that the Celtics are from 3. It's going to be about trying to maximize those opportunities at the rim. And then when you can, generate those high-value corner threes as well as getting to the free throw line. It's going to take all 3 of those things, I think, to try to keep pace. You can't trade 3s for mid-range 2s and have any shot at success, I think, if you're the Lakers.
Yeah, I think that just the way the math works is it just lays out that way. The good thing for the Lakers at the moment is the Celtics have kind of changed their shot diet a little bit. They're attacking the rim more since the turn of the year. They're getting downhill a bit more. Their rim frequency has gone up. Their 3-point frequency obviously has slightly trended down, but they're still one of the, if not legally, I think they're still leading the league in 3-point attempts per game. They've had some bad nights. There's been some slumps. Derek White hasn't been his usual self. Jaylen Brown's had some rough shooting nights. Tatum. You can go down the list. Everybody's had some really bad stinkers lately. But when it comes, as I said at the start of the show, when it comes to the rivalry matchup, you can throw all of that out the window and just expect everyone to play at a higher level. The biggest concern for me coming in is obviously it's LeBron and AD, but so the one that concerns me is Austin Reaves has stepped up into that third option role following D'Angelo Russell's exit, and now you've got Austin Reaves out there playing at a higher usage rate, being able to create a little bit more. And I like to call players like that release valves. When pressure builds up on star 1 or star 2, you have a release valve that's a high level that you can rely on. I think that he fits that role perfectly, and he's kind of grown into that over the last few years. That's kind of where the fear factor comes to me, because unlike last season where the Celtics, when they switched, they didn't really overhelp or help much. It was basically man-to-man switch. We don't trap much. We might pinch or dig, but we're not going to send 2 to the ball. They've been a bit more willing to do that this year. I think AR could be one of the guys that comes away from this benefit as a benefactor, because you're always going to have the notion that you need to send 2 at LeBron, or you need to build a wall when LeBron's getting downhill, or send 2 at AD. How's he been since stepping up into that additional usage?
He's been kind of hit and miss, and he's been overall pretty good. I mean, if we look at the take a step back and look at the grand scheme of things, he's been pretty solid for the Lakers, producing in a number of ways, scoring the basketball, shooting the 3, facilitating. He is being asked to do a lot. And as most Lakers fans will tell you, the problem is the other side, where he's just getting switch hunted to death. Teams are targeting him almost every possession. We saw it a number of times where teams, the Dallas Mavericks, they beat the Lakers because they just attacked Austin Reaves constantly, all game long, just picked on him. So that's the concern. It's the other end of the floor. He can do some things offensively for them for sure. And if he gets going, and if he can start getting into the paint, when teams pay too much attention to LeBron and AD, he can make you pay if he's having an on night, and he does a nice job getting into the paint. He's a 3-level scorer. He can score at the rim. He can score from the mid-range, and he can score from behind the arc. He's not a bad passer either. He's not a high-level next tier point guard passer, but he's better than most point guards are in terms of just reading the floor and finding, or at least a lot of the modern point guards. He's pretty good in terms of reading the floor and finding the open man. On ball, he can be. Pressure defenses can give him a bit of trouble. He doesn't have the best handle, and so that'll be something to watch. Do the Celtics try to really press up on Austin? Oftentimes, we're seeing a lot of teams do this when Austin has the ball. They're trying to put a lot of pressure on him, and that will, at the very least, delay the Lakers from getting into their offense, and then it puts them up against things in the 24-second clock. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But if Austin can beat that pressure, he's pretty good getting into the paint, finishing there, or at least finding the open man. Over the last week or two, he's also really started to throw the lob at a higher level than he had previously. So it feels like he's settling in to that role. But the key is going to be watching the other side. Do the Lakers play the switch defensively? There have been times where they have. There have been times when they haven't. As soon as they have, though, teams are just going right after Austin Reaves or Dalton Connect if he's on the floor, occasionally Rui Hachimura. They've had a real problem with getting switch hunted. So that will be the real key with Austin to keep an eye on. It's what do they do with him defensively? And then can he have a solid game on the offensive end of the floor and make the Celtics pay for paying too much attention to LeBron and AD?
It's interesting you talk about switch hunting, and I'm sure you've heard this quote, especially when you're doing episodes with Keith, the killer whale offense that the Celtics like to run. So it's, Joe Mazzulla's like the most quirky dude in the entire world.
Yeah.
So it comes up with, hey, we're going to watch the Discovery Channel today and watch how killer whales attack seals. And he wants the Celtics to implement that, and they'll look at Austin Reaves as a seal, basically, and they'll hunt him and hunt him. What's interesting is, and I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the Clippers game from yesterday, was Jaden Springer really made an impact as a point of attack guy that basically hounded you. He was a dog. He's not really going to give you much on offense, might hit a couple on a high volume catch and shoot, but his screen navigation is excellent. His ability to stay connected to people's hips, he can force them onto their weaker hand, take away crossovers, blah, blah, blah. I think that everything you've just said about how to take Austin Reaves out of that game or out of a game, or at least limit his ability to be a creator or a ball handler, we could see some Jaden Springer minutes again, especially if Drew Holiday is not in the rotation or if he's playing on a minutes restriction. So it's going to be a good tactical battle. And I think this is leading me into the final question is just, we're halfway through the season at this point. Everybody, what we've seen now, you kind of get a feel for the type of coach that Redick is and the systems that he's putting in place on both sides of the floor. Is he as good, not as good, or better than what your expectations were coming in?
I think he's as good, but everything is still up in the air. Like this team, they don't know who they are yet. They haven't figured that out yet. They're still trying to find their identity. They don't know, are they a lockdown defensive team? Are they a high octane offense? They've been both of those things, not at the same time, but they've been both of those things through different stretches of the season. So they're still trying to figure out who they are. So, and because of that, we're still trying to get a sense of what JJ Redick is as a coach. And he's probably still trying to figure that out too, as he's a first-time head coach. So this is very much to be expected, that it will take some time for him to settle in and figure out exactly how it is that he wants to run things and all of that. So far, I won't say it's been bad. I mean, they have a winning record. They're in the playoffs, not the play-in right now. I think he's done about as well as we could have hoped. I don't think he has necessarily exceeded expectations, and suddenly the Lakers are this. He's unlocked the team, and they're this surprise contender or something like that. But they've done well. So I think he's been as good as we could have expected him to be, with a lot still unanswered in terms of what this team wants to be. And a lot of it too is on the roster. Where is the roster even going? And that's obviously beyond the control of JJ Redick. So very much still up in the air for the Lakers as we're trying to get a sense of kind of what all of this is going to become.
And it's tough, right? Because you're coming into this as a rookie head coach with the pressure of coaching in LA.
Absolutely.
And then you've got the roster that, to be fair, doesn't really make sense. There's not a lot of pieces where you can point and be like, oh, even just on paper, you could look and be like, oh, they're going to try and play brand of basketball X. There is very much like a smorgasbord of just talent, and you're trying to like pick your poison, try and paint by numbers type of thing. So it is definitely tough. And look, as a Celtics fan, the Celtics have been there. I've covered the team when you're just trying to figure out where pieces fit and how that puzzle works. And sometimes it just takes one or two trades to put everything right. And with Simple could do that at a trade deadline before. I think it was Darvin Ham's first year. So there's still time for you guys to figure it out this year, if not next. Coming into the game, I just want your opinion. Who are you taking to win? Who do you think is going to be top player of the game, whatever it want to be?
Well, obviously, I won't pick against my Lakers. I know they're a fairly heavy underdog in tonight's game, but I won't pick against my Lakers on this one. But I think in order to win, you've got to get Anthony Davis for the first couple of weeks of the season. He was playing at like an MVP level where he was in that conversation. You've got to get that guy. I think that's the key. Anthony Davis has to be the best player on the floor. I know LeBron can have those games now and then, but I think it's really going to come down to AD. If he is the best player on the floor, then the Lakers have a shot to win this thing and get the win at home. If he's not, then I think there's some issues there for LA. So I'll say the Lakers get it done, and I'll be optimistic about AD and that he shows up for this one.
Obviously, I'm going to go with the C's taking it.
Of course.
Second night of a back-to-back. Last thing you want on the first night is to play in overtime. They did. They should have handled business far earlier in that game. Credit to the Clippers there. Credit to Ty Lue. In my opinion, one of the best coaches in the NBA. I'm still confident. I think Tatum's going to come in, and he loves to play in Los Angeles, loves to play against the Lakers, loves to play against LeBron. He's going to try and have a 40-50 ball in the house that Kobe built. So I'm down to see a big-time Jayson Tatum performance. Trevor, man, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm sure you don't need any help with following, but please let anybody know for the YouTube algorithm where they can find you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You guys can find me over at the Lakers Nation YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lakers Nation, as well as the NBA front office show that I host with Keith Smith, who's another Celtics guy. And we go back and forth Monday through Friday on our shows. So you can come find me either of those places. You can also find the Lakers Nation podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Everybody make sure you're tuning into the Celtics Chronicle. Hit that subscribe button, sign up to the newsletter, and we will be back tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. Peace.